It's Rutan Day at Oshkosh. Honoring Burt, design genius. I really appreciate him for the design of the aircraft. I've been flying it for over 20 years, having a blast with it, and this is kind of a culmination of it.
Burt Rutan embodies the spirit of EAA.
As a design engineer, he's my idol. He's what I try to be. He is the master of elegant simplicity. And I get to meet him here.
God bless you. Thank you for everything that you've done.
This is the best way to display that airplane in plan form because it shows the striking aerodynamics of it. And right here in plan form is a VariViggen and my second airplane, the Very Easy. And I'm just absolutely blown away by how well the museum shows these airplanes. This one's been in the museum for a long time, but it's never looked as striking and proper as it does right now.
I'm Janne, I'm from Sweden. I have a master's in aerospace engineering, and I'm always been into flying and aerospace and aeronautical engineering, especially Burt Rutan and his aircraft. I'm really interested in the canard designs, and he has a really new, unique designs and a lot of designs, so it's really interesting. And so he's primarily the cause why I'm here in Oshkosh.
Starting in 1968, I started to build the VariViggen because I worked at Edwards and I always was in the back seat and didn't get to fly in the fighters, but I wanted my own little fighter. So in '72, I flew the first flight of the VariViggen and then flew it up here to the show in '72. It was a very unusual airplane at the time. People didn't understand how you can put a tail on the front, and it was a short wing little thing, and it rolled really good, and it wasn't designed for any kind of efficiency. It was designed so that I could have I could sit in the front seat of a fighter. That's what I did with the VariViggen. But I ended up just really fallen in love with being around the home builders, and from then on, we'd occasionally forget and miss Christmas, but we'd never miss Oshkosh.
This is the front panel of my Long Easy. Could you autograph the back of it for me? Number one, he's an aviation genius as far as I'm concerned. But on the other hand, he has brought it down to a practical level for people to be able to enjoy what he has designed throughout his life.
The volume of research prototypes that I've done, that's the main thing that's different over what anyone else has done. In 45 years, we actually did manned flight testing on 46 different airplanes. Different types, not just variations of one type, but essentially all of them were new types. And a lot of them were introduced and so that the public could see them for the first time right here at the Oshkosh show.
I started coming to EAA quite a few years ago, and then the Very Easy showed up one year, and I said, I want an airplane like that. There was just something about, the uniqueness of it. And so I followed Burt. I went to all of his forums. I was really impressed by his openness. Here's what I'm going to do. No, actually, usually it was, here's what I've done, and you can now buy this set of plans. So he wasn't making pie in the sky kind of predictions.
Only one of the RAF airplanes that I get to enjoy myself, and it's the airplane that I have most of my flying time in. I've logged about 2,500 hours, and most of my time has been in the Defiant. Okay? That was a workhorse for me.
My family and I built this Defiant, which is one of Burt Rutan's designs.
I look back on it, and I don't understand today why we were so driven so hard. of course, now I'm looking at it from a guy who's 72 years old and is tired most of the time, and why we work so hard to get an airplane built and flight tested in months instead of years. I think the answer is that I enjoyed the result so much. I enjoyed experimenting. That's why every airplane seemed to look different. If I had two solutions and one was different and we might learn something new, good or bad, I'd always do that one instead of the one that I knew what the result would be. So I was always tending to do things that had both safety risk and business risk. I always took the risk instead of took the easy path, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed a lot of the airplanes flew very bad on the first flight, and another thing we were very good at is taking the flight test data and modifying the airplane until it flew good. The Long Easy is a wonderful example of that. The first Long Easy was an awful flying airplane, and the one that we sold plans for is an airplane we're very proud of.
My name is Leif Johnson, and I flew my VariViggen Speedy to Oshkosh this year. This is the third time he's been here, and this year is special because of the anniversary of the VariViggen, 40 years.
And the race VariViggen by Leif Johnson.
I am an aeronautical engineer, and I've always been fascinated by it, and about just the concept of the backwards flying pusher canard. Everything's lifting on the airplane. All the airplanes with conventional tails have a tail that's fighting against the wing. So every bit of force that's taken to stabilize that airplane is force that's taken away from the lift of the wing.
I have a Cessna 150, has 100 horsepower, does 100 miles an hour. He has VariViggen with 100 horsepower, does 200 miles an hour. That's not just double, that's times 4. Because drag, well, as pilots are taught, drag's the square root of the speed. So it's got a quarter of the drag of my 150. He just does so much with so little. And he's thought, well, the only way I can do that is to design a new way to do it. So he did. He came up with, we'll just cover foam with fiberglass.
This is the aileron. This is not an elevator. It's on the back of the airplane, but the pitch control is in the front. The original design of the VariViggen did not even have ailerons in the back there. The wings there was no control surface on them. Burt had this idea that it would be super simple to have a little mixed control here and have the elevators on the canard, which is what it is now, also control roll by being differentially split to be able to roll the airplane. Didn't work real well. You need a little more control authority, so that's why the design evolved to this with the ailerons in the back, once again, and the elevators in the front. The control from the cockpit is the same as far as you push forward and the houses get bigger and pull back and the houses get smaller. But what is happening on the elevator may be a little bit different to people, because when I push forward, this is what people would visualize as up elevator on a regular airplane, but keep in mind it's in the front, so it's pushing down instead of lifting. It would normally be pushing the tail down with up elevator, but in this case it's pushing the nose down with down elevator. The genius of this, Burt Rutan did not invent the canard. It was on the Wright brothers airplane, but boy did he polish it. And he recognized the more efficient concept of it, 2 lifting surfaces versus 1 lifting, one pushing down. Something else that's interesting about the VariViggen is it's fairly close to a monocoque structure, which means that it's an eggshell supported type of strength. The spar on this airplane goes to right about here, and it's built up fiberglass. There's no metal, no wood. And beyond that, it's just monocoque structure. So all of the force on that rudder, all the torsion from lift across the wing, all of that is taken by a piece of styrofoam with fiberglass around it.
Burt is on a different wavelength than most people.
He's thinking so far ahead of most people, we still haven't caught up.
His designs were way out there ahead of everybody else. Everybody else is doing stuff conventional, but he was always way out there with his design, so very unique.
And the boomerang looks kind of conventional if you see a side view. But I pulled it up like this and I rolled it up 90 degrees. And I went across the shoreline like this. And that video, there were a lot of people around it that were picked up on the mic that were laughing. Not just going ooh and ah like I thought there were. There were people actually laughing. So that was kind of my rude awakening on what people thought of a real unusual airplane when they see it for the first time.
It's always, when you see a design ways, it's always like you want to see why it looks like that and what's the purpose of it. And he always has a purpose with his aircraft. It's not just it's a nice design, it's always a functional design.
Feather and engine go to full throttle on the other one, and it takes 1.5 degrees of aileron and 1.5 pounds of aileron to fly it with your feet off the rudder pedal sitting flat on the floor. Now try that with your Duchess or your no, don't.
The boomerang, if you slow down and fly at the same speed as the Defiant, you're crossing the ground at the same rate, different altitudes, but the boomerang has exactly half the fuel flow of the Defiant. Half. It has the same displacement engines. It burns exactly half the fuel. Now that's weird. You don't come up with a new airplane that has twice the efficiency of an old airplane. It's unheard of.
Thank you very much.
It's quite special to us because we decided to name our only son as with his name.
We've actually named him Elbert Frank Boyd. So Elbert after Burt and Frank after Frank Whittle. So he's got a very aviation related name.
E-L-B-E-R-T?
Yes.
I've never met someone with my first name. And I had a family come up to me and they wanted me to meet their son. And they had named him Elbert.
Hey, how you doing, Burt?
And I'm thinking, why would somebody do that? I don't even like that name. That's why I'm known as Burt,
We were very lucky today, and we just really appreciate that he's so nice and welcoming and give time, like still giving time to people, which, sometimes must be quite tiring.
They say you shouldn't meet your heroes in case you're disappointed, but so nice.
Rumor has it you have a new project coming out. Can you tell us anything about that?
I've decided to go ahead and break my rule of talking about an airplane that hasn't yet flown.
What I'm working on right now, if it works, and you back off and say, well, what do you have here compared to other things that do this? It's a more dramatic difference in comparing them than any airplane I've ever done.
Rough dirt, snow, ice, water, anything, and yet has the range to make it to Hawaii. Imagine an airplane that you can put on an ocean beach.
It combines the ability to go in and land everywhere in any kind of surface with the ability to fly the oceans and live in the Pacific for a year if you want to, and to come up on beaches and walk to a service station to get gas, and these things are huge. Having an airplane, you could explore the world without ever going to an airport. If you think about it, that's a significant thing.
I don't like airports. That's where the FAA is.
I expect to get more than 60 miles per gallon on my little STOL world exploration airplane, which allows me to put backpacks with bladders in them and walk to a service station and walk back to my airplane with my wife and I carrying 400 miles of fuel. And we can get nearly 800 miles of fuel by taking that walk twice. if you go out and do something, even if it seems illogical, you are the one that's likely to stumble into a breakthrough. You're going to be the creative guy. So I'm not going to criticize you for trying something different. Because I know that I've made a success primarily because I tried different things.